Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital.
Now before I begin, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications. About a year ago, I bought a property in Nevada. The process went smoothly, and I was able to record the deed transferring title to my company quickly. However, a few weeks after recording, I got a letter from the assessor informing me that there was an issue with the deed. Of course, it's always a little bit stressful to get a letter such as this, and in this particular circumstance, the assessor let me know that there was an issue with the legal description. Thus, we needed to draft a correction deed with the appropriate legal description and go back to our seller to get it signed and notarized and then re-recorded. And if you're curious what the exact issue was, I'll let you know at the end of this video. But this story does show you that you need to be very careful with the legal description that is listed in the deed whenever you purchase a property. So in this video, we'll go over the top 4 things you should know about legal descriptions so that you don't have any issues next time you buy or sell a property. Number 1, the reason a legal description is so important is because it is the way that a property is located and identified. Surveyors and county officials use the legal description in order to plat a property, and it is generally the only way to verify a property's boundaries. This is also why it is so important that a legal description be accurate. A legal description is contained within the property deed. Every deed in a property's chain of title should have a legal description in it, and for the most part, the legal description in every deed should be the same unless there have been changes to the property boundaries through subdivisions or mergers. The deed, and thus the legal description, is also filed with the county or city clerk so that the county officials, including the tax assessor, has the appropriate description to allow them to map the property themselves for tax purposes. Now, because the legal description is so important, it is required for any kind of legal document associated with the property, including sales contracts, deeds, and mortgages. After all, it is the definitive way of identifying a property. Number 2, not all legal descriptions are the same. Of course, every description is going to be unique to the property itself, but there are 3 main kinds of legal descriptions that you will find. The first is a lot and block description. This kind of description is typically associated with the subdivision, and the description itself will refer to a lot and block number, as well as the subdivision name and the official plat of the subdivision. So what will happen is that a developer, as part of a subdivision project, will create a plat that divides all of the newly created properties into blocks and lots and numbers those blocks and lots on the plat. This plat is then filed in county records and is publicly available. The plat will also usually show dimensions of all lots. Therefore, the plat is the ultimate reference to the boundary line locations and is simply referred to in the deed so that a surveyor, title company, or property owner can look up the plat and identify the property by its lot and block number. However, perhaps the most common kind of legal description that you will find is a meets and bounds description. This is a description that uses bearings and distances to measure the perimeter of a property. It is created by a surveyor and is essentially a written description of the survey lines. Finally, there are fractional legal descriptions. This kind of legal description occurs in areas that were delineated by the public land survey system, essentially much of the western U.S. And it describes a property as a fraction of a section. So what does this mean exactly? Well, the public land survey system was used to delineate most areas of the U.S. that were acquired as territories after independence. And the public survey system divided areas into townships, which are basically boxes that are 6 miles wide and 6 miles tall. Every township is situated in relation to the state's vertical and parallel axes. So for example, if you see a legal description that says township 2 south, range 2 east, this means that the township is 2 miles south of the state's parallel line and 2 miles east of the vertical line. Townships in the public land survey system were then broken down into 36 sections of 1 square mile, or approximately 640 acres. So if we go back to our above example, the full legal description would read something like Section 20, Township 2 south, range 2 east. And this would be a legal description that corresponds to a property that is a full section. Of course, sections could be broken down further, in which case the legal description would refer to a fraction of a section. For example, the eastern half of Section 20, Township 2 South, Range 2 East. And if this is all a little confusing, don't worry. It is not absolutely necessary that you understand the legal description yourself. You can always have a lawyer or a title company work with you to ensure that the legal description is correct. Number 4, perhaps the most important thing to understand about legal descriptions is that an improperly recorded legal description can create a cloud on title. Now, sometimes this is easily resolved, but other times it can create a big headache for you, and that's why it's very important to ensure that the legal description in the deed that is transferring title to you is correct, and that it accurately describes the property that you are purchasing. So how do you verify that your legal description is accurate? Well, one thing you can do is order a new survey whenever you purchase a property. Now, this is always important to do, but it is perhaps especially important if the legal description for your property is a meets and bounds description. But perhaps the most important thing you can do is commission a title search, which will review the entire chain of title to make sure that the legal description has remained more or less static throughout the history of the property, or if there were changes, that these changes made sense. A title search may also catch any competing or overlapping claims to a portion or part of a property. And of course, purchasing title insurance can help insure you against any issues that later come up with your legal description, or if you eventually discover some kind of discrepancy between the legal description in your deed and the boundaries that you thought applied to your property. Finally, you can also have your land use or real estate attorney review the legal description in the deed transferring title to you. Now, often a legal description is not something you need to worry about, but you want to take special care when you are dealing with an old legal description, especially if it's a meets and bounds description. In particular, if you are buying properties on the East Coast, you may find situations in which the last time a property changed hands was decades ago, and thus it has been a long time since anyone has reviewed the legal description or completed an updated survey. And these are circumstances where you may begin to see discrepancies between legal descriptions and the assumed boundaries of the property. But to return to my opening story, what was the issue with the legal description in our Nevada deed? Well, in this particular case, the property had changed hands a few times, and because it was a lower value parcel of land, none of these transactions involved a title company. And at one point, the individual who had written out the deed had made a typo in the fractional legal description, listing east instead of west. And this legal description was then copied in the next few transactions. Now, because again, the property was a lower value parcel of land, we did not do a title search on it and did not catch the typo since it had occurred a number of transactions back. Fortunately, the assessor caught it and we were able to file a correction deed, amending the legal description and ensuring that the correct description was used moving forward. But this is a good example of why it's important to be careful and generally good practice to have a title search done. Now, do you have any stories about legal descriptions? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down properties at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.